Cannot start with such dull faces and low energy. So I need some fuel to, start the game. So can we have three cheers for DSE? Come on, guys. All right, I'll say hello and you guys can say hi. Let's do it this way. Hello, DSE. A little louder. Hello, DSE. That's better. So the first term, and please keep the energy in the same way. Otherwise, you might let somebody else who's gonna raise the hand first win. So let's be competitive and let's see who'll get the maximum goodies from here. The first term is saddle stitch. I know I'm starting a little difficult. What is a saddle stitch? Nobody? You can Google also. That's a quick this thing, and then I can see some people doing it. So the publishing world where you don't have papers, a lot of material, you just stitch together, staple it, bind it with a thread or something. It's like a thin volume of uh, a journal. It can be a booklet or it can be a book also sometimes. Very, very thin. So that's called saddle stitch. A little misnomer of sort. It's very difficult to figure out what this is looking at the term. All right, now we move to the next one. It's easier. What is a dust jacket? I'm sure if you go to the library next door, Ratan Tata Library, you will find a lot of them. I've spent a lot of hours inside, and there were a lot of dust jackets. Yes, we have an answer. You're googling it. That was only for that question. All right, fine. I think we need to set the ground rules again. Okay, nobody else got it. You're the first one. Fine. I'll give it to you. But what is the answer? Right. That's correct. That was an easy one. All right. What is a spine? Sir, you cannot participate in this. I'm so sorry. But this is nobody from Springer, nobody from the library system, because otherwise everyone else will lose. So, what is a spine? Yeah, that's a very significant hint. Go by the literal meaning. You have to declare if it is Google answer or your. Okay, yes, tell me. Not really. I mean, visualize a book and then think of a spine. No. We have one gentleman there raising hand. Yes. Yes. Close. Close, correct. It's the easiest way to understand what is a spine is go to a library, how you see the books are stacked, where you see, okay, this is the one I want to read. That's the spine on which it mentions what's the title, who's the author, who's the publisher, a quick this thing that you get. That's the spine which puts together the book. Another thing related to book, gutter. Very difficult to guess by the name. This time you can't go by the name and visualize something. It's also called gutter space. So that's also a hint. You have, you, all right. Not exactly, but you're close. You're somewhere near there. Correct. Yes. How did you get it? That was. Did you Google? You gave it some thought and came up with the right answer. Nice. So, all the people who have answered, please come back to us at the end of the event and we have some goodies for you. All right. Anybody who can quickly tell me the expansion of ISBN? Yes, please. Correct. Absolutely. And another easier one, ISSN. Almost similar. Anybody would like to take a guess? All right, Google then, if you are not able to find the answer. Nobody? Still? Very easy. Oh, we have an answer from that. Wonderful. Very nice. You'll have to come run fast because otherwise you'll miss your goodie. Okay. What is a prologue? Yes. Right. Right. Correct. Absolutely correct. There's so many nice responses that are coming that I've lost count. So you guys have to bear this in mind that please collect your goodies because I will forget. Okay. Now it seems I have run out of questions. A little painful question. What is APC stands for? Those who know it, they must be really dreading it. Sometimes it's good not to know because then if you know it, it's painful. All right, now Google and tell me the answer. Yes, sorry. No. That seems like some very complex, difficult economics term to me, but APC is very, very simple. Anybody else would like to take a guess? Sir, you would know all the answers. That's the last question that we have. So, who wants the last goodie? But I'll still give it to you because you raised the hand, you followed the protocol. Sorry, guys. So, thank you so much. We have our team here and we shall soon start. All the people who answered the questions right, please do come back and collect your goodies at the end of the event. And I hope you learned some new terms. And this was a fun game, but educational and interactive. Keep the energy high. Let's keep it interactive. Let's keep asking questions. And I hope we don't need Google this time. So, I think I'll hand over to the Master of Ceremony for the day.
Thank you so much, Akansha, for this very interactive session. We'll begin shortly in a while. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I, Vishnu Pandey from the Delhi School of Economics, extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished guests, eminent faculty, and bright students to this research summit being organized jointly by the Delhi School of Economics in collaboration with the Springer Nature and the Ministry of Education. We welcome you all to today's session. I would now like to invite our research scholar Sujata Chaudhary to perform the DU Kulgeet and the Saraswati Vandana.
I request everyone to kindly stand as the University Kulgeet is being performed.
जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम श्रेष्ठ सुंदर दिव्य दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय विहंगम जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम सकल वसुधा निज कुटुंब की भावना संस्कृति सनातन आधुनिक शिक्षा पुरातन ज्ञान धाराओं का संगम देश की स्वाधीनता है भूमि का शतकोटि वंदन निष्ठा धृति सत्यम की मंगल दिव्य भावों का समागम जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम भव्य महाविद्यालयों के परिसरों से चिर सुशोभित श्रेष्ठ गुरुजन कर रहे नित छात्र और छात्राएं दीक्षित सदचरित्राचार्य पावन साधना संकल्प संयम नवल वैश्विक चेतना नव क्रांति संस्कारों का उद्गम जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम श्रेष्ठ सुंदर देवी दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय विहंगम जयति जय जय जयति जय जय ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम ज्ञानिकालोक अनुपम
Kindly be seated.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषार हार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणा वरदण्ड मण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निशेष जाडापाः
धन्यवाद.
Before we move with the event forward, I would like to request Mr. Venkatesh Sarvasiddhi to hand over the book baton to Dr. Pammi Dua, Director, Delhi School of Economics, and Professor Balram Pani, Dean of Colleges, University of Delhi. The book is a symbolic rolling baton representing the academic and research excellence, which are the key pillars of National Research Tour. The book shall collect views, feedbacks, and opinions about how we can together strengthen the research ecosystem in India, along with increasing the quality of the research optimization. We all can feel free to scribble your comments in the book. The book will be kept in front of the stage for all the audience members. I thank everyone on the dais. I would now like to invite Professor Pammi Dua, Director, Delhi School of Economics, to deliver the welcome address.
A very good afternoon to everyone here. I extend a warm welcome to all of you to the Delhi School of Economics. I especially welcome our distinguished guests, Mr. Venkatesh Sarvasiddhi, Managing Director, Springer Nature India, Mr. Arend Kuster, Director, Academic Affairs, Springer Nature, and Mr. Ed Gerstner, Director of Research Environment Alliances, Springer Nature. I warmly welcome Professor Balram Pani, Dean of Colleges, University of Delhi, and thank him for presiding over this function. I also extend a warm welcome to Professor Daman Saluja, Chairperson, Research Council, Professor Rajiv Gupta, CEO, Institution of Eminence, and Professor Rajesh Singh, Librarian, Delhi University Library System. I am also honored and privileged to welcome everyone to the distinguished parent institution of the Delhi School of Economics, the University of Delhi, which is celebrating its momentous existence of more than 100 years. Established in 1922, the University of Delhi, with a glorious legacy and its motto, Nishtha Dhritti Satyam, namely, dedication, steadfastness, and truth, continues to preserve its commitment to excellence in research, teaching, learning, and outreach. It currently includes 90 colleges, 16 faculties, 86 departments, and almost 7 lakh students. Being a research-intensive university with a vibrant research culture and ecosystem, it seeks to create and share knowledge and technical know-how through quality research. Its strong commitment to excellence in research is evident from publications in high-ranking peer-reviewed international journals, a high H index that stands at 264 as per the Scopus database, and a total number of 12,263 publications between September 2022 and 2023. The university has established a research council which coordinates and facilitates research activities across the university. Recently, the Research Council undertook various initiatives to promote research, including starting a research and development cell for university-industry interaction and facilitating patent filing and technology licensing. It also developed a strategy document that lays the roadmap for 25 years, 2022 to 2047. The University of Delhi was recognized as an institution of eminence by the Ministry of Education in 2019. The Institution of Eminence has taken various initiatives to enrich the research culture, including sanctioning projects worth rupees 20 crores to about 600 faculty members of the departments and colleges of the university across various disciplines in the past 3 years. It has also provided substantive financial support to the Delhi University Library System for the procurement of e-books and other e-resources. The Delhi University Library System contributes significantly to the growth of teaching, learning, and research in the university. It reaches a large academic community with a distributed network of 37 libraries across both the campuses, north and south. Recently, it made a historic acquisition of more than 86,000 ebooks. It also subscribes to an impressive list of databases and has facilitated the access of its e-resources beyond the geographical boundaries of the campus to its users through the DU e-library portal. A few words about the Delhi School of Economics. Established in 1949 as a center for advanced learning and research in the social sciences, it has entered its 75th year, signifying 75 glorious years of commitment to excellence and dynamism. With its motto, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgama, may the light of knowledge remove the darkness of ignorance, the Delhi School of Economics stands tall with excellence resonating in teaching, learning, research, and outreach. It currently comprises the departments of Economics, Geography, and Sociology of the University of Delhi. I take this opportunity to welcome the heads of the constituent departments, Professors Surinder Kumar, Anindita Datta, and Sudha Vasan. It is notable that India's premier library in the social sciences, the Ratan Tata Library, is also located in the Delhi School of Economics premises. In the 75th year of its existence, the following words of the founder director of Delhi School of Economics, Professor V.K. R.V. Rao, continue to aptly describe the Delhi School of Economics. After all, there are many universities, but only one Delhi School of Economics. I welcome all of you once again to this magnificent temple of learning and look forward to engaging and enlightening interactions and discussions. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now like to request and invite a chief guest, Shri Venkatesh Sarvasiddhi, Managing Director, Springer Nature India, to deliver the welcome note.
Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, thank you, Professor Pambhi Duwaji, for giving us this excellent opportunity to start our India research tour from this prestigious institution. I know how it feels to be here, and also I resonate the same feeling from all the students and faculties and great people who have built and made this university one of the best not only in India but in the world. And I think it's a matter of pride for Springer Nature to be here. I also would like to extend my warm welcome to Professor Balram Paniji, the Dean of the Colleges for University of Delhi, and of course various guests who are present here. This is a great moment for Springer Nature to be here to kickstart our India Research Tour 2023. So when we thought of this, one of the reasons behind why we want to do something like this is to strengthen the research ecosystem, help research ecosystem, and also help grow the research communities in India. And if I look back into the global statistics, India ranks number 3 in terms of scientific research articles after China and USA, and most probably we may take over the number 2 slot very soon in the coming few years. That shows a great opportunity, and also the ecosystem of India is very, very big. Can anyone guess how many schools we have in India? All government, private, international, semi-government. Any guess? Wild guess? No? 5 crore. That's that's little on the ambitious side. So we have roughly around 1.5 million. Could be here and there, but roughly 1.5 million schools in India. In fact, if I just look into the statistics, it is 4 times the number of schools that are present in China. Okay, and if I have to look into the higher educational institutions, the individual colleges, which are further, of course, affiliated to universities, but if I collectively look into higher education, any guess on how many colleges would be there in India? 5,000? 20,000? The number is 50,000. Okay, so that's the kind of a landscape India is. I think, it's at the same time, it's also a great importance to look at, are we skilling the people rightly? Are we moving the levers of research, the foundation of all these institutions in terms of having the right faculty, having the right curriculum? You are one of the, I think, the fortunate of the crowd, because you're sitting in one of the prominent universities with all the facilities. I was amazed to listen about the wide variety of access, books, e-books, 86,000 acquisition this year, 37 libraries put together. And I would say, you should celebrate the fact that you are in one of the best universities in the world, in India, for example. Wherever you are, whatever discipline you are in Delhi University, it's a great matter of pride for you for access. But there are many institutions which still requires access to knowledge systems, access to e-resources, computerization, digitization, and of course the current ecosystem of NEP is looking at changing the pedagogy, changing the curriculum, bringing across changes, and of course it will take a lot of iterations in terms of getting through those changes and building that ecosystem. So overall, if you look into it, I think strengthening research, access to research, discovery of research, contribution to research, and driving the culture of open science, open ecosystems is very, very important for any nation. So Ministry of Education, along with Springer Nature, this year we decided that we will have this India Research Tour travel across the country. We have a beautifully looking, well-designed bus to create that awareness, which is right standing outside your institute. And this is the first institute we landed up. Today morning, we had the inauguration at the Ministry of Education, Shastri Bhavan, flagged off by the Joint Secretary, Higher Education. And this is the first place we wanted to be here before we kick off on this journey. In this journey, we'll be covering more than 10,000 kilometers by road and touching not only Tier 1 cities, Tier 2, Tier 3. We'll be spread across more than 17 cities, and we'll be interacting with a lot of researchers, professors, academic leaders, policy makers, scientists, students in colleges, and also young researchers like you, to understand their needs, their challenges, also look into how we can strengthen research together in this evolving ecosystem. I think we all, of course, should have a kind of a commitment to strengthen research not only in our colleges and ecosystem, but by far in the country, in terms of what is that we can do to bring in colleges which are disconnected into the ecosystem of being connected. So this is our journey. This is what something we felt it's an important thing for us to do. And of course, government has been very supportive in driving this, and we expect that each of you who are here be a part of this contribution, actively engage, and also see how we can strengthen the research of this country. And I'm very proud being an Indian with the launches of the Chandrayaan 3 or the upcoming things what we are doing across. I think a big round of applause for all of those who've been involved in Chandrayaan 3. It's a matter of pride when you represent global organizations and what India is doing, or you are traveling abroad and you proudly say that India is on the emerging curve of contributing to research in the ecosystem. So I think it's a great opportunity once again to all the people here, especially Professor Pammi Duwaji, and then we also have Professor Balram Paniji, the Dean of Colleges, and Professor Daman Salujaji, the chairperson for the Research Council, University of Delhi, and Professor Rajiv Gupta-ji, the CEO of Institute of Eminence, of course, University of Delhi. Professor Anandita Datta, I think she could not make it today, but extend our regards to her, who's the head of the Department of Geography in Delhi School of Economics. Dr. Rajesh Singh ji, the librarian, who's always been in constant support to us in driving many initiatives. And of course, the entire community of students and faculties who are here. Look forward interacting with you over a panel. And thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Professor Balram Pani, Dean of Colleges, University of Delhi, to felicitate our dignitaries. Mr. Venkatesh Sarvasiddhi is currently working with Springer Nature India Limited as Managing Director, leading the overall India business operations, driving advocacy and strengthening the open science, open access, and overall science research and technology ecosystem in India. Earlier, he worked with National Skills Development Corporation Deloitte, and Microsoft in the broad areas of digital skills, innovation, industry partnerships, industry and academia collaboration, and developer and startup ecosystems. He is also recipient of several national and international awards. Mr. Aaron Custer is Director of Academic Affairs at Springer Nature. He has been working in the industry for over 25 years as an enthusiastic international senior executive with deep experience in the publishing experience in STM business strategy, sales and marketing, and academic and professional journal development. He previously held positions as Director Open Research, Greater China at Springer Nature. He is particularly passionate in developing sustainable and innovative publishing solutions and contributing to the global transition to open research.
Mr. Ed Gersner is the Director of Research Environment Alliances at Springer Nature. He has over 21 years of scholarly publishing experience, including 11 years as a journal editor with stints at Nature, Nature Materials, Nature Physics, and Nature Communications. In his current role, he is responsible for building alliances with research institutions and community organizations, working to make research more rigorous, diverse, inclusive, ethical, and open. I thank all our dignitaries. We would now move to a panel discussion on the theme Excellence in Academic Learning and Research, Role of E-Resources. I would like to call upon stage to moderate Shri Venkatesh Sarvasiddhi, Managing Director, Springer Nature India, as well as our panelists for today's events, Professor Dhaman Saluja, Chairperson, Research Council, University of Delhi, Professor Rajiv Gupta, CEO, Institute of Eminence, University of Delhi, Dr. Rajesh Singh, Librarian, Delhi University Library System, University of Delhi, and Mr. Ed Gersner, Director of Research Environment Alliances at Springer Nature. I would request all the panelists to kindly take their seats on stage. Right. Before taking the stages, we would request all our panelists to be felicitated by Professor Balram Pani, Dean of Colleges, University of Delhi, and Professor Pammi Dua, Director of Delhi School of Economics. On panel, we have Professor Dhaman Saluja, Chairperson, Research Council, University of Delhi, Professor Rajiv Gupta, CEO, Institute of Eminence, University of Delhi, Dr. Rajesh Singh, Librarian, Delhi University Library System, University of Delhi, and Mr. Ed Gersner, Director of Research Environment Alliances, Springer Nature. We welcome all panelists to today's events. Can we have a huge round of applause for them, please? Sir, I would request Mr. Venkatesh and Ed, please join us for a photo here amongst all of our panelists. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. I would request Sri Venkatesh sir to kindly take the panel discussion session forward.
Thank you, everyone. That was uh, a great moment of having the scarf of the specially designed Delhi School of Economics, and highly amazed with you guys celebrating 75 years and 100 years of existence. That shows the legacy and also the quality of work we have done over the years. With this, the today's panel discussion is about excellence in academic learning and research, primarily the role of the e-resources. So we would try to touch upon the modern era of education and research and the utilization of electronic resources and how they have become paramount in enhancing the academic learning and the research outcomes. So we have the august presence of some of the eminent people here on the panel, starting with uh, Professor Daman Saluja, the Chairperson, Research Council, University of Delhi. Professor Rajiv Gupta, CEO, Institute of Eminence, University of Delhi. Dr. Rajesh Singh, Librarian, Delhi University, the Library System, University of Delhi. And Ed Greshner from Springer Nature, Director of Research, Environmental Alliances, joining us. And as I said, the key objective is to primarily discuss the significance of e-resources in the academic system, to explore various type of e-resources available and their impact in the ecosystem, to even look at some of the challenges that are associated with these e-resources across implementation, usage, access. And of course, we will look into different types of e-resources, the benefits of these across the ecosystem, institutional strategies in terms of adopting, executing, making it accessible across a large audience, like the kind of ecosystem what Delhi has, and also the future trends. There's a lot of emerging technologies like AI. We have seen chat GPTs, blockchain, and something else to come up in the coming years. Adaptive AI is taking a big way in the e-resource management. And also worldwide, we are also looking at open access initiatives. Western Europe, entire the Western worlds, US, Europe, Australia, they are moving towards the open access workloads. Global South is in the process of testing out, especially markets like China, India, which are the lead contributors from a research output. They're evaluating those models, then looking at personalized learning and research experiences, and of course the role of resources in addressing the global challenges. So the format is, it's a 45-minute discussion with all the experts and thought leaders sharing their inputs, followed by, of course, a live Q&A, which we can take in few questions towards the end. And this primarily aims to gather the inputs of various people, their viewpoints, and also potential suggestions they have in making this more interactive. So I'll start with Dr. Rajesh Singh to initiate this and look at and highlight us a little bit on the benefits of the e-resources, and especially how we are looking at scholarly communication, making it more flexible learning and a research ecosystem, especially with the University of Delhi, which is one of the largest educational ecosystems in India. Maybe he can help us understand his viewpoints, and then of course we will move to the remaining panelists to also see their feedback and viewpoints and how they have been dealing with ecosystems. To you, Dr. Rajesh Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Venkatesh. Thank you. And I would also like to thank the organizer of this program, Professor Pami Dua, for inviting me and giving me such an opportunity so that I can speak, the library can speak to its user through such a important forum. Thank you very much. It has already been told that we are a distributed system of 37 libraries spread across both the campuses of the university. And this structure is somewhat similar to University of Oxford and Pennsylvania University, where resources are gathered together closer to the users of those resources. So we have a variety of libraries. We have major libraries, we have certain special libraries, we have certain departmental level libraries, and we have certain libraries which are really very special, because such libraries are for PWD students and scholars. I'm proud to tell you that in 1972, this library system could visualize the requirement of visually impaired students, and a library called Braille Library was established. And that library has grown up with the growth of technology, from person to person communication of the information, then to audio tapes and CDs. Now that library with all its facility is available online. Similar has been the growth of Delhi University library system. Not only in print resources, we are very happy to announce that we have the maximum number of print collection in Indian University library system. We have more than 1.7 million of books, printed books. And if we talk about the print resources and print collection, we were the first to go for the subscription of databases. I still remember the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Deepak Pental. He called the negotiations with the renowned publisher of the world, that is Elsevier, for Science Direct, and I feel proud to inform you that still we have the subscription of Science Direct at a lower cost compared to any other university in our country. So this is one of the challenge which we are dealing with, the price. Presently, we have access to 52 important databases across all the subjects, and these databases are very important. Beyond this subscription, the library system, all its library, and we all library staff, we are in the service of our elite users. See, Delhi University library system has a very unique advantage. You know, besides the structure of the library, besides the collection of the library, we have very important advantage, and that is of the user. The quality of researchers we get, the quality of students we get, that is very important. And that makes our services important, because they are using it. We every year from any of the Indian universities, University of Delhi produces the largest number of research paper every year, largest number of citations from University of Delhi research papers. So we have that elite user group for all library services and resources. Presently, I think it was 2021 December 2020 or 2021, I do not remember exactly. We have facilitated a service of DU e-library web portal, which provides access to all our subscription-based resources, the resources which are available from InflibNet, and the resources which has been curated from open access all the time, from anywhere. That means you can access all the resources from any device, even from your mobile phone. Those resources are accessible. We have also started information literacy program since 2006, when it was rarely talked in India, and that time it was at the level of theory worldwide. We have started practical information literacy programs, and I am proud to tell you that we have visited almost all the departments of the university and almost all the colleges of the university where we have conducted such programs. We provide a lot of research support service. We have created a showcase of research publications of our faculty members in the Central Library, that is Faculty Publication Corner. Talking about e-resources, it has lots of advantages. In brief, as a library professional, what we were taught or what we could think of providing the users in a very uh, highest decorum of service, all those services are very easily possible with the e-platform. We can send you any information almost instantaneously on receiving on your request. So this e-resource is very flexible and very beneficial platform, not only for researchers but also for the students. But the challenge remains the infrastructure, which I don't think we don't have. We have the infrastructure, we have developed the infrastructure. The basic challenge is of the pricing. And I do believe that as a publisher, since you are having a great cut in the cost of publishing in print medium, so that benefit, that advantage should also be shared with the institutions and the libraries. And this should, instead of being 2-3 times costlier compared to the print, it should be less costlier compared to the print. See, the plan and strategies which we have visualized here at University of Delhi is to support the users, to support the students and researchers and faculty members, particularly focusing on the millennium students, those who are born and brought up with the technology, to support their teaching, learning and research with quality information. Friends, it's a well understood behavior of the students particularly, that they look for online information sources. And if there is no quality, if there is no provision of quality information from the institution, they will go to the sources like Wikipedia and Google. So we are not creating any gap. We are trying to fill that gap with the quality information which we are purchasing, which we are acquiring from world's renowned publishers. With the support of Institution of Eminence, I'm really very happy and fortunate to be the librarian of that institution, from where the Institution of Eminence has extended a wholehearted support for purchasing more than 86,000 e-books in one single go. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. See, the changes in the publishing is in such a platform. I am not able to forecast what will be the future, but I am sure the future of users are very bright. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajesh Singh. That's really incredible in terms of the inputs what you shared, and also the history of how it's been built, and also your viewpoints in terms of how making research more accessible and cost effective. Now moving on to Dr. Daman Saluja. Could you share some of the examples of innovative use of e-resources, maybe things related to data analytics, AI, in the Indian research ecosystem?
Yeah, being from the research, I would, because we are like I'm from B.R. Ambedkar Center for Biomedical Research, a hardcore researchers and bench worker. So I would say this has really helped e-resources, as well as the current techniques of AI and ML. First of all, I remember as a student, we used to go to library, take out books, look for books. Then the journal would come, there used to be a current contents booklet, and that would be, we would need to look for what are the new public journals or, topics that are coming up in the next issue. And that issue would arrive after 3, 4, 5 months to the library. I'm talking about way back in 80s. So now it is available to you or to me as fast as to anybody in the world. All open access and e-resources are available immediately to us, which is a big benefit to us. We are able to quickly, we can keep pace with the current research. Earlier, we used to have a lot of problem because we were running behind them always, because we would not know what is going on currently. So that is, I think, is a biggest boon because of the open access and e-resources that we are getting. And our university had been, as Dr. Rajesh has put it, very fast recognized this, and they made it available to all of us researchers that. And now, of course, sky is the limit. We have been able to collaborate internationally with people. We have been able to do networking, have so many webinars and seminars we are able to attend, because many of them are now being organized in a hybrid mode. Earlier, we could never attend them because you can't travel abroad so often. You don't get grants to travel, and it's very expensive, and visa problems and so many other issues. So it is now made very easy because a lot of webinars are now in the hybrid mode, and we have attended many such seminars and webinars. And in fact, we have organized now many webinars and seminars in our department, and everybody has organized. In fact, during COVID, everybody organized, but even then, after that also, now this has been continuing. Many international conferences are being organized, and the speakers are online giving their talks. So this has really helped. In fact, not only in research, it has overall helped the country. How much AI and ML we are using in developing agriculture and in smart cities and so many other things. So it has really helped. I think it's a very good thing, and future, and especially for the students, for them the sky is the limit. Thank you.
Thank you for such an interesting insights and also use of AI and ML, and of course emerging technologies in terms of how they're making research accessible, research connected, and research shareable actually in a larger ecosystem. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Now moving on to Dr. Rajiv Gupta. I think you have a lot of experience and you have seen the entire landscape transform, especially in academic research. Maybe you can share some experiences from the past decade of the transformation and challenges and how it transformed.
Thank you. Let me first start by thanking Professor Pammi Dua, Director, D School of Economics, which has allowed me to come over here and share some of my thoughts. My co-panelists, particularly colleagues from Spranger India Nature, Professor Daman Soluja, Dr. Rajesh Singh. So, whenever I talk to my students, I'll just, I'll not go by something which maybe, the panelists have written. I'll share something which I really do it. So whenever I talk with my students, I always tell them, ask them, what is research? And then I try to explain that research is made up of two terms, research. That means you do a lot of search. You build upon your research based on the earlier literature, based on the earlier knowledge and understanding. Now, when you start, thinking about research in this direction, then how do you do research? And then it actually based on the earlier information. So you cannot really deny the importance of already available literature. So then, all resources become extremely important. Then how do you search? I think as my fellow colleague, Dr. Rajesh Singh was explaining, it's very easy. You just go to Google and you type some terms and lot many hits will come. And then, they all the time to create the world record, like, you got 67,000 hits in 0.012 second. But then is that authentic? That's the first question. Is it something which you really want to know or you want to utilize for whatever the purpose you are searching? So search becomes very important. During our time, and I'm taking all the co-panelists on board, during our time there was only one way, that you go to library And library, you know that it's a place which is, you are surrounded by large number of books. And then you slowly try to understand that how to, go through these enormous amount of information, books which are, surrounding you. Slowly you understand, you dig out the information after, say, going through our indexes, after going through many, many things. I don't know how many of you are really aware. We are certainly, but now things have changed. So when we now try to, look into or to go for the search, it's very easy. And that's why the structured search is critical. Authentic search, the authentic information is very, very important for all of us. And if we are interested about doing unbiased, authentic research in whatever the discipline of subject which belong to. Now, how do you do that? The conventional method, I just said that, go to the library, but things have changed. Today's generation is not criticizing, but, the time frame, the complexity of the table, the commuting is very difficult for students' community to go to the library. What is more desirable, practical, conducive is like if you can actually, while you are commuting, while you are traveling, while you are, walking around, if you can actually have all the access. And that's why e-resources are the need of the hour. Now I'll just talk about 3 F's, which are very critical, at least in my opinion, about the e-resources. And I prefer using e-resources because, I may be using journals, you may be using books. So e-resources. So the first one is freedom, the second one is flexibility, and third one is fairness. And I'll just briefly explain all these 3 F's. Freedom, I told you that, you have the liberty, you have the flexibility, you can actually access it from any place based on your convenience at any time. The flexibility, obviously when you have the freedom, you also have the flexibility. You can actually go through large number of resources in a very little amount of time. And if this resources is authentic, then your struggle is very limited. Often I see students immediately going to Google and searching something, but then I have just, mentioned that information is not very authentic. You do not really know whether to trust, particularly if you are into higher education, if you are into research, if you could use that information. So both flexibility and freedom, they go hand in hand. The third F, literally, it requires more deliberation, that is fairness. Why I have included this third F is because in today's time when we have a wide spectrum, remember in University of Delhi we are talking about 16 faculties, 86 departments, nearly 91 colleges, and nearly 7 lakh students. So fairness also becomes very important, very critical. That means all the resources are accessible to each and everyone without any boundary. And that is the one place where, the actual books, for example, if you have to think about, if you have to purchase all these books from various places, that's going to be very difficult. And then this last F, fairness, will not really be practical. So these 3 things, these 3 F's are very important to promote our research in today's time, in today's scenario. And I come from institution of eminence. I have a dream of making our library system one of the best in the world. And I get full support from our honorable vice chancellor and also many other people who are associated with the administration. Hopefully in future to come, we'll have all resources, particularly e-resources available, which you can actually access from anywhere in the world, as long as you are using your email ID, the university email ID. You can actually download any resources, and with that we'll complete all the 3 F's: freedom, flexibility, and fairness. Thank you very much.
I think that was really interesting discussion on the overall landscape and how it evolved, and the importance of it, especially in an ecosystem which is fairly connected with a large ecosystem of almost 7 lakh students in one place. Moving on from here to Ed, my question to you is, how can you leverage, especially a country like India, which is vast in terms of its universities and students, can leverage the open access platforms and open educational resources to promote inclusive and affordable higher education.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to say, I really like that analogy of research being research. In my time, I remember thinking on that idea of research. My life, when it came to research and looking up journals and books and papers, it was mostly photocopying. And so by the end of my PhD, I had this gigantic box full of paper that felt like I'd done something, but I couldn't search it. I couldn't remember what I'd read in it. And the amount of hours that I would spend going to different libraries on campus just to photocopy these things and think that I had assimilated this information somehow was, getting rid of those papers, it made me sad, because I thought all of that information in there is now, I can't take it, because then when I finished my PhD, I moved to Cambridge. As like I was not going to ship these boxes of papers to the other side of the world. And this was, the internet had only, or rather the web had only really just been invented. And certainly Nature wasn't online at that stage. Nature didn't get online until, I think it was the late 90s, 97, 98. So even if I had some rudimentary access to the internet. And I'm struck these days by the extraordinary power of all this information that we have at our fingertips. But of course it needs to be available. It needs to be accessible. People need to be able to access it. But it is, if it can be accessed, it represents such an extraordinary potential. And that potential is the reason why, for most of my time, since moving from research and into publishing, I've been quite passionate about open research, open access, open data, open code, open systems, to help really make sure that this difficulty that I had spending all my time going from library to library to library with my photocopy card and photocopying these papers and then labeling them and then putting them in a box, all this investment that I had spent it was, now I didn't have to do that. So I felt that it was absolutely vital, given that this barrier to accessing that information had that physical barrier, a literal physical barrier of me having to go find the information and then photocopy it and put it in my box and not be able to search it, of course. This barrier was now gone. And it occurred to me, it was just this immense opportunity, which is why it's so important that we do all that we can. Now that we have this ability through electronic search, through electronic distribution, it's absolutely crucial that we grasp that opportunity and make sure that people have access. Now, the big challenge is that the paper wasn't that expensive. The printed word is not that expensive. It's the information that lies underneath the printed word. It's the generation of the knowledge, not the actual printing of it, that is the expensive part. I was thinking on, you go into a library and there are all these books and it looks immense, but it's actually the information that you don't see that is where the real value is. And making sure that we can support the value that is created in that, and not make the mistake of thinking that volume is necessarily material, is content. And that's some of my concern about the advent of artificial intelligence and machine learning, is that we now have computers that can generate vast amounts of information. Doesn't necessarily make it good or useful or reliable, or and so part of this research endeavor. I think it's important that we remember, once you are provided with the information, question the information, find out where the information originally came from. So it's not just the information; it's the origin and where the information came from. And so it's even more important that we have more access to the original resources, to the original source of this information, and not just go, oh, okay, here's a fact. The computer told me this fact. Let's just assume this fact is true, and let's base our next move on what the computer has told me. Absolutely important that you go, where did that fact come from? Is that fact actually true? Can I find the original source and the original and the link to the original creator of this information? But in order to do that, you have to have free, open, easy, transparent access. Because the moment that you hit a barrier, you'll think, well, I can either work harder to try and get this information, or I can make the assumption that the information is credible and then move on to the next thing. And I guarantee you will always go on and move on to the next thing. Because the minute that anyone hits a barrier, they find a way of making it easier, which makes openness and accessibility and fairness even more important for the future. And it is a potential for everyone. It's an opportunity for everyone. And on that question of free and accessible, or rather, and I don't mean free as in no cost, I mean without friction, as it were. I'm reminded of a story from the very early days of Springer. This was before the merger between Springer and Nature. With Dirk Hank had just taken the reins as the CEO of Springer. And he looked at the book business, and it was struggling. It wasn't sustainable. And they just got into ebooks. And back in those days, all of the ebooks had digital rights management. All of the ebooks, they had this. You had to unlock the books, and you had to prove that you had the right to read the books in order to read the books. And he thought, that's a barrier. That's a barrier to our audience being able to read the books. And he said, okay, we have the books business. It's struggling to be financially sustainable. And we have these locks on the information that people have to prove that they're allowed to read these books in order to read them. How about we remove the locks? Let's remove the locks from the books. Let's take all the digital rights management away from the books and let the information be free. We're not giving the information away, so it's not free in our financial sense, but we are making it more accessible and more useful to the people who've paid for it, the libraries. And so they took the digital rights management off the books when they told the librarians, we still need you to pay for these subscriptions, but once you have them, there will be no difficulty in you using them, no difficulty in students exchanging them, downloading them to their tablets, downloading them to their laptops, downloading them to anywhere that they want to read them. There will be no restriction because we removed the DRM. And the industry looked at that and they just went, that's madness. The pirates will run amok. They'll just copy and distribute everything and the business will be destroyed. And Dirk argued, well, the pirates are already copying all of our stuff. The pirates are already getting through the DRM. That's not a problem. The technology to do that is not a problem. The people that we are preventing from reading our stuff is the users, you guys, the students, the scholars. And so the pirates don't care, but the users do. So I'm going to make a bet that if we remove it, that actually it will make our content more useful and more valuable and more sellable. And that's exactly what happened. It didn't collapse. It actually made the business, more and more people wanted to pay for this much more useful resource in the books that didn't have any locks and keys on them and made them easy to use wherever. If you wanted to read them on a tablet under a tree, you could do that. If you wanted to read them on your commute, you could do that. If you wanted to read them at your desk, you could do that. And I think that demonstrates another aspect of the power, the opportunity to letting information be free, not without expense, but without this friction. And I think that's one of the reasons That's one of the reasons I am so passionate about the importance of opening up everything, not just books and journal articles, but everything from data to code and protocols and so on.
Thank you, Ed, for your valuable thoughts and your insights. Moving back to Dr. Rajesh Singh ji again, you know, so you have led the library ecosystems. You have a lot of experience in handling the transformative journeys of it. So my question to you is, what strategies does the Indian academic libraries should employ to enhance digital literacy and information literacy skills among faculties and students?
Thank you, Venkatesh. I take this opportunity, and before I respond to your query, I would like to make a request on behalf of my researchers here in University of Delhi. Since both the higher up members of your team are here, see, I am responsible for facilitating resources to my researchers and students. And you know that open access is something which every author likes to publish in, because it has some associated benefits, which is much more than the commercial publication of a research paper. Professor Daman Saluja will also agree, and she has been facing this challenge. The authors and you know, from Indian universities, Delhi University is the maximum contributor to your publication also. So for the authors, once they decide to publish in open access, APC, which the students could not tell what is APC, but once you are in publication, you are trying to publish, it will be definitely very painful, APC, and it is much higher. So it's a challenge for me as a university librarian, and whenever the members like members of the committee, that standing committee which decides about the purchase and subscription of e-resources, which includes Professor Pami Dua also, they ask me, why don't you talk to the publisher that they should do something, since we are purchasing the content, and again we are spending money on APC also. How it could be possible from audit point of view? And by persuasion, we have been able to agree one of the publishers to waive off the APC charges if any research paper from University of Delhi is being published in any of their journals. So I would request on behalf of my researchers and authors from University of Delhi to Springer Nature to please think on this, and this is really a very big issue and a challenge for the librarians who are subscribing, who are purchasing your content, and that also in a big volume. Now coming to your question, see, I would like to relate my answer to my experience here in University of Delhi. See, subscription of e-resources or purchase of e-content involves huge amount of expenditure. And this was a challenge for us. I told you that we were the first to start the subscription of e-resources. I joined University of Delhi in 2006, and this was the challenge given to me, how we can think of a good return on investment. Unless the things are used, unless the e-resources are used, there is no return. So I was looking for something through which I can canvass the user population, particularly the researchers, and I can tell them what is available, what is the feature and format of the databases, how should you search, how can you formulate a good search query, and how you can retrieve the information precisely from multiple databases. So we started information literacy program, not in theory, practically. We started reaching to the students and researchers in the departments, in the cluster of departments, in the colleges, in the cluster of colleges. We also started organizing workshops on information literacy programs, one for the social sciences and the other one for sciences, because there is a difference between the query and the information to be retrieved. I think similar activities, and you know, this teaching part of libraries is not something new. This has been there. We have been telling the students and the researchers what are the marking and parking pattern of the information in a particular library. We have been telling them, or we have been showcasing them what is available and what is available elsewhere, and how we are useful, how we are fruitful in your academic and research pursuit, right? So similarly, the Indian universities can opt for information literacy programs, because it also consists of digital literacy. We started in 2008-9, we started an information literacy course for research scholars, although it was a pilot course, and that time it could not be very successful, but we can think of such programs in Indian universities, because return on investment is a big question when you ask for money to the authorities of any university. So you will have to tell them how much you have purchased, how much you have subscribed, and what is the return, what is the usage, the practical usage of a database or from a bundle of books. So this would be my answer. Thank you.
I think I really appreciate your inputs and also your recommendations to the publishers at large. I think I partly agree with you in terms of the APCs. When I talk to the research communities in the Western world to the global South, there's always a challenge of APCs, evolving APC charges, and also, we just need to look back into a little bit onto the data point. For example, 85% of the research funds in India come from the government of India. Wherein if you look into the Western worlds, there's a lot of research funding which is available from the industry. There's also research funding which is available from the private universities. There's also research funding which is available from various philanthropic organizations. Unfortunately, that ecosystem is still in the process of evolution, and of course, Indian ecosystem is much larger. We roughly spend around 160 to 170 million US dollars in higher education research for research related access. A country of India would certainly need a little bit more percentage of the GDP spend on the higher education research. That's number one. Number two, the global South, countries across not only India but Indonesia, Vietnam, if we go towards China, APCs has always been an opportunity wherein they feel they could put that money to a better use in research rather than publishing. And the models are more subscription driven. So the budgets go for libraries and libraries procure content. So when the model is flipping, actually, this challenge will exist. It's like a flight which is taking on or a flight which is actually taking off. There's always a turbulence because there's a spend you have towards your library. And of course, the spend that APCs in the form of authors, what they need to pay. But when the model flips, actually, the subscription prices will come down because it's an open access ecosystem. And of course, authors will have the ability to pay. But taken the point, as I said, it's a very fair point. What the publishers across the world should now focus on is how to bring down the APCs from a global South to address specifically India or China, or India for that matter is a major concern because we are talking right now in the Indian ecosystem. So Springer Nature is actually working towards it. In fact, we will be launching our models driven by technology, wherein we are looking not at $2,000, $3,000 as APC charges, but bring it down to maybe a $300. So will that suit the Indian market? In fact, what we are also looking into is it's a model called Curious in Healthcare, which we are experimenting. It's going very well with the Indian healthcare researchers ecosystem, wherein there's zero APC. If you need editorial processing charges, if you need the support of editorial, you pay $300 and it's fully open access. I think with technology coming over, replacing the models, APCs in the coming 5 years would not be an issue that I can see. Not just with us, of course, there's a lot of industry changes that's happening. So in this process, of course, whenever there's a changeover, organizations, even Springer Nature does a lot of discounts, waivers, and all of that. especially supporting research and institutions where research funding is an issue. We can always reach out to the relevant people. Not only us, even the publishing industry as such is also doing, as you rightly said, one of the organization has waived off, and we also work very closely. We get a lot of wave of requests, and we do also look into India very differently from the outside community because of the challenges Indian research ecosystem has. I think if you ask me now, I think as I said, it's a turbulent moment of either taking off or taking down. So that would be turbulence because of the model shifting. But eventually, 5 years down the line, I think technology will play a major role, and APCs would not be that major issue. That's my answer. But all of us, of course, having said, it's a very fair point, and we all should work so that the quality of work done by researchers in any corner of India, can be taken to the global output, and that's how open science ecosystem will evolve. So moving on further to Dr. Daman Saluja. Having your e-resource transform the entire landscape of academic research in India over the past decade, how have you seen this role of e-resources playing, fostering international collaborations, especially partnerships for Indian researchers, institutions? If you can throw some light around this, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. This is now working. Okay. Okay, thank you. So, as I just touched upon that, thank you for asking this in detail. So I think now all the researchers in DU are getting really benefited from this e-resources and e-learning and this international collaboration by getting these e-resources. First and foremost is that because we have now the global knowledge right at our fingertips, or we can say, it is immediately we come to know what lab is publishing, what are the papers coming up. We don't have to wait for several months, as I was telling you in our times that was happening. But so it is very easy to reach out to those scientists where your interest overlap, and you can have some networking, and you can have some kind of a interaction. You can share the data, you can discuss online, and a lot of such kind of collaborations and has started because of this. And that has been possible only because a lot of the papers are open access papers, and many of the journals have both subscription and open access, and open access will of course come very fast and very early as compared to the subscription. Normally that will come a couple of months later. Another thing is that during this time, lot of data, international consortium has come up which are depositing the data into certain, like we have many of you, if you are from biology and other, you must have heard of BLAST search and FASTA, EMBL data, PDB structures. So all these are now available to you. The minute any paper comes which says we have put in geodata and TCGA data, we have immediate access to that, and you can use that data for free and to interpret your own results also. That's another advantage. And then you can have a lot of you can go back to those who have deposited that data. If it is coming, different ethnic differences are there, as in Asian and Caucasian population, there are several times, there are a lot of biological data differs. You can have open discussions, have more collaborations, more in-depth discussions and collaborations. So all these are coming up now, are made very easy, which did not exist even 10 years back, when we did not have this availability of e-sources and e-resources and these data. So I think that way it has given real boost to international collaboration. now, it is even easy for us to apply to joint projects like Indo-US project, Indo-UK project, Indo-German project, because we can contact them. Otherwise, earlier we used to write to them. By the time we would write, the last dates would be over for applying. So it never used to happen. But now, because of all these access to the data and e-resources, it is very, very easy to have develop new collaborative projects and submit them for funding and all that. So I think it has really helped a lot. And as I said earlier, having virtual conferences, webinars, and which are now in many of them are in hybrid modes, had also helped knowing latest research.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. In fact, rather than India looking at collaborating with any international countries now is a time for to look at to India to collaborate more. I think the cards have changed a lot over the couple of years because of the data sets what India has. Any country has to certainly come to India to look at it, relook at it, and collaborate. I think that's the beauty. With an 1.48 billion population, what India has, and 850 million telecom of connections, and more than 750 million people connected online. I think any country should reach out to India for sure if they want to do deep research and use the data sets effectively. So moving on from here, I think very interesting inputs, Professor Daman Saluja, in terms of how things have been changing and how institutions have been looking at collaborations. So moving on to the next part, Dr. Rajiv Gupta. My question is, looking ahead, what are the emerging trends and technologies in e-resources that are likely to shape the future of research, in your opinion? Because you are leading a very eminent university and 7 lakh students, it's a huge thing. How do you look at the emerging?
Thank you. I think one thing which is certainly going to change the entire world is the interdisciplinary nature of the work, research particularly. Things have already started changing. Even in our country, you must have realized the type of degrees, the type of new programs which have been initiated both by the public funded institutions as well as private funded institutions. I think that the time to come, a lot will depend on interdisciplinary nature of the work, assisted by both AI and ML. And I think all these things you cannot think about without joining hands, both from the academia, industry, as well as your partnering institutions across the globe. Things are the way things are changing. Just look at the way. Even you can take a simple example of mobiles. There was a time the touch screen was unthinkable. Now you struggle to get a analog phone. These are not available, right? So what actually happens? Similarly, last year, this first time, this folding phones were announced, and now I think all the leading manufacturers have come up with their models. Why I'm citing this example is because the world has shrinked as far as technology is concerned, and more technology driven we are, the entire world will shrink further. And this shrinkage actually helps in reaching out to the other part of the world. For example, when you are trying to identify partnering institutions, when you are trying to identify institutions from other part of the world, and that's where the technology, the open access information, the all e-resources are going to be extremely critical. So what I see in future, and that's going to change very, very fast. I think most of the research is going to be interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and these are going to be based on the difficulties which the entire world is facing. And then, we have recently witnessed this COVID, and we know that how to fight COVID, how many countries have joined hands, how many institutions have joined hand to bring out vaccines, including our own country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your inputs. Moving on to Ed, because we are running short of time now, I think we should also give Q&A option to some of the audience here. So, what are the ethical and legal considerations surrounding the use of e-resources?
Ethical considerations. Well, I mean, actually, it then comes back to I think AI and machine learning feeds very much into that as well. A great concern that I have is the training of the AI. It's very unclear when it comes to how these models are trained and the data sets that are used to train them. And what comes out at the other end often tends to be biased results. And typically they will be biased in favor of rich white men in the West and biased against minorities and actually, I don't want to use the word minority. I think a term that I've just recently been introduced to is the majority world, and it turns out the majority world is also known as the global South, and we need to remember that a lot of the rich Western powers are in the minority. And so when it comes to AI and machine learning, we need to understand that a lot of the training sets, the open data that's being put into them has been chosen by a minority of companies and researchers. And so I think that's something that we need to, when it comes to these online resources and open resources, and it gets back to that question that I raised about the provenance. Where does the original information come from? What is the original information that is used? And to make sure that original source material is available and open, and that's not the stuff. It's not the original stuff that's behind the paywall, and everything that comes from it through these black boxes is then opened up. And so I think that's a great concern that I have.
Thanks for sharing your inputs on the ethical and the legal considerations when it comes to using e-resources. Now, I think I will take few questions from the audience. So maybe we'll start with one or two questions and see how we'll still have more time to do it. And any questions from the audience, students or the faculty members here? Anybody in the gallery there, out there? No. Okay, please.
I think e-resources e-resources will change the entire ecosystem of learning and academic learning and even research. But don't you think all research which has been happening till now is university focused and not dependent on independent researchers or others who are trying to do this?
Okay. So, Dr. Rajiv, you want to take this question? This question is more focused around university research and research coming from outside universities. Yeah.
So remember that research is not a copyrighted item of any institution. To give a very straight answer. So remember that, let me give this answer from a different perspective. Our country has already accepted a new national education policy 2 years back and 3 years back, and our university has already started NEP. So why I am taking this example is because in all undergraduate programs, the 4th year is meant for research, at the entry at the beginning level. Now, why this is important, why it is critical? Because this is actually going to promote research at the individual level, rather than structured research, which you only see at the time of joining for the PhD program. I think we need to understand and consider that research can be done, has to be done at all level, not necessarily at the highest level, that for example at the PhD or the postdoctoral level, but also at the undergraduate level. So introduction of national education policy is a very critical step to fill this gap, because research can be done, has to be done at each and every level.
May I add another point? So even in schools, if you remember now, they have started Atal Innovation Centers. So even there the students are, and then there was Inspire fair where earlier they would have inter-school, there were several level, inter-school, interstate, and then national level Inspire this research program where students would in teams would represent some of their innovative research. And many of those students, I do remember going to as a judge for one of those or two of those, and there were few of them who got patent even filed by DST. So it is not restricted to PhD anymore. It is now anybody. So school level, everybody goes, and even in school you have opportunities to be innovative. And a lot of such innovations are coming up from school children.
I think if you look into even the industry, for example, maybe take large biggies like the IBMs and Cisco's, the Intels, the Microsoft, the Googles, they're deep research, fundamentally driven companies, who are investing billions of dollars. In fact, because I've worked with Microsoft, I can certainly say we used to invest $9 billion in research alone. As big as what a pharma company major like a Pfizer or a Baxter or a Bayer would invest. Yeah. So research is always respected, and people are respected in terms of how many patents you have, how many research papers you have, even in the industry. I think that's how the industry, even in India, of course, now it's picking up, and that's why I said if industry research sponsored projects are more, then the research funding problem will be solved. Then the research would actually come from, when the funding will come from the industry, then there would be chairs or professors in the institution who would have enough funds to do research or publish research also. That's again one more way to look at it. Yeah, there is also a few hands at the back. It's when we ask for questions, people generally for the 1 minute nobody raises hands. Everybody sees who is going to raise hand, and then there will be a lot of people raising hands till the end, till the time we say, okay, we are up.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, since in starting, the panel discussed about, So, the panel discussed about the authenticity of e-resources. So, being a student or someone who just entered in research world, what do you think, what factors should we consider before trusting a research paper or e-resources?
Ed, would you like to take this? Yeah.
So this is where platforms like the platforms that we run at Springer Nature and where I think this is where publishers and other, it doesn't necessarily have to be commercial publishers, it can be institutions as well, where we have a responsibility to make sure that our users understand that or can trust the information that we're publishing. So the platforms that are used, I think we have an absolute responsibility to earn the trust and to make sure that we vet the content that we're producing, and that we curate the content that we're producing, and that we gatekeep, that we filter the content that we're producing, and hold that content up to standards so that there is content that people can rely on. One of the concerns increasingly about, say, preprints. Now, I'm also I'm a big fan of preprints for communications between scholars, but that relies on you having an understanding of the scholars that are responsible for the research, and that becomes more difficult the more scholars there are and the more complex that research gets. But one of the roles that a publisher has is to provide that stamp of trustworthiness, and if and it's an absolute sacred duty And if we don't live up to that sacred duty, then the world becomes a much more difficult place for scholars, for the public, for everyone else to navigate. So I guess a short answer to the question is look at where the information is coming from, and is the information that it is provided with, do you tend to trust that information? Is it from a reliable source? Is it from a reliable publisher or a reliable institution? But always question. Actually, everything, even the stuff that we publish, you should question. So skepticism is also goes hand in hand with that question, because some of the stuff that we've published has turned out not to be very accurate as well. We try.
I would like to add something. So this was a wonderful question, and I would like to add something. See, you talked about authenticity of information. There is no question of the information which comes to you from publishers like Springer Nature or Elsevier or Wiley or Sage. But as a student, when you are using Google or Google Scholar or many other things on internet, this question arises. You know, the information which is available on internet is not only for academic purpose. There are various other purposes also, right? So you will have to find out what is the credentials of the author who has published this piece of information, right? Like what he is, to which kind of organization he is associated with, what else he has written in print or on digital platform. So that will help you to decipher what is the objective of the information, whether it wants to sell a product or to support a viewpoint. So such questions you will have to ask. See, an academic piece of information will speak along with the advantages, it will also speak about the limitations. But something which wants to promote a viewpoint or sell a product, they will never speak about the limitations. They will only speak about the advantages. So this decision you will have to take when you are taking information from open access. Thank you.
I think that's a very important point, what he pointed. The source, is also becomes very important, what you're looking at, considering as an important reference point. Good. I think, interest of time, because we already overshot and we have, of course, other sessions to follow after this. Thank you so much, everyone, for your valuable inputs and also sharing your thoughts, your experiences, how we built across the ecosystem, issues in the ecosystem, challenges, and also the opportunities that are before all of us. Thank you so much for your valuable thoughts. Really appreciate each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such a good panel discussion and all the audience for being so attentive. Thank you.
I would request the audience to please give a huge round of applause for all the panelists for such an engaging session. I would request to take 2 minutes off while we set the stage for our next presentation. I would like to invite Mr. Aaron Kuster to deliver the keynote address for today's event.
Wow, they're clearing it, they're making space for it. Amazing. Thank you for hanging, listening to us and myself about this keynote. It's my great honor to be here, and I would like to thank the Delhi School of Economics to host us today, and in particular I would like to thank Professor Pani and Professor Dua, of course, who have been so kind to hosting us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also thank the Ministry of Education, who has started off our Springer Nature Research Tour of India. You can find a hashtag on this slide if you want to follow us on this amazing journey around the country. And I'm looking forward to learn much more about India and much more about what we are doing here and how we can work with you as researchers. So let's see whether this works. Yes, it does. Wonderful. So I'm going to start what we were talking about earlier on as well. I'm going to start talking a lot about trust, because trust is underpinning everything we do in the research side and on the research business and in making research available. You as researchers, you trust us that we give you a fair and open and good assessment of your research. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to trust us and you wouldn't want to publish with us. You also trust us that we keep looking after your research for a long, long time, so it can be accessible long after we left the planet and people can go back to it and see what research did we do. So we are powering this element of trust and we are partners in this, and this is something which we are very keen to work with you over the time. So I'm going to talk about roughly 3 points here today. One thing is why open access matters. The next one is a very high-level look and a very high-level fly over the publishing landscape. And then also, because we talked about open access already quite a bit, I'll talk about 5 misconceptions which are typical to open access. So let's get started. Why does open matter? When I look at open access, I look at a matrix and I look at an open horizon, if you want, because it's the way we travel around. We have one thing which is called open access, which comes up here, which is the open access to information. But that's not all about open science. That's not everything, because open science also encompasses something called fair data, which we call fair, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible data, which should be made available with articles and with research, so people can reproduce research as well. And then we also look at another column. We look at what we call citizen and public science and public engagement with science. All of that makes, in our view, the research assessment and research, the open research environment. But then we have got things running vertically to it. We've got one thing, which is metrics. How do we measure that? How do we measure good open practices? How do we then also give credit to it? And credit to the impact of it. And impact, I don't mean impact factor, I mean impact. We come back to that point a little bit later. So I always think it's important to go back to the basics and remember what open access actually means. So as you can see, open access is the free, immediate online availability of articles in perpetuity. The perpetuity is also very important, coupled with the rights to share these articles fully in a digital environment. That means OA ensures that anyone can access the data and can access the article as well. And secondly, OA removes barriers to access because you have access to it. You can actually see it and you can read it. And for your research, what that actually also means is that open access helps your research to have higher international impact because it becomes easier to find. You don't have a barrier to get it. You can really go for it and you can really start using it and other people can start building on it. But what does that mean for researchers? What does it really mean? So open access has accelerated discovery by making it available to everybody. So when you have an article which is open access, we know from our research, and that is very, very common known in the community, we know we've got 4 times more downloads of those articles, we've got 1.6 times more citations, and we've got more news mentions and more policy mentions. But on the other hand, we also should not forget that publishing is a relatively small amount of the global research and development enterprise, which is about a staggering 1.7 trillion US dollars, and publishing is about less than 1% of that. So actually we are quite small. We are not unimportant, I would say, but we are one part of the infrastructure. And, oops, the screen just left us. Can we bring the screen back? Because I'm slightly short-sighted, so long-sighted, so I actually have to see what I'm saying. Perfect. Yeah, back on. No, we're not back on. Just going to continue a little bit like without it. What I wanted to say is that in Europe, we also know that there is a lot of wastage because research data is not being made available, and we think the cost of that is around, are we back? No? The cost of that is about 26 billion. It's nearly, yes, 26 billion is wasted because people don't have fair and accessible and interoperable research data as part of it. So open research, oh, did my thing, okay. There's some issue with the cable? Always thought. Ah, I'm back. Okay, it was the cable. There was something touching it. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good. Very good. So open research is the way forward, and everybody is starting to recognize that. And open research gives us new forms of publications, whether it's sharing protocols, whether it's sharing data, and whether it's making data more available. So this is just a short summary. I'm not going to read it all to that, but the UNESCO is recommending open science, and all governments across the world are putting measurements into place to to promote open science and to bring open science to the forefront and to fund it as well, which is what funders are doing, which is what funders like Coalition S in Europe are doing, and also in the US, people are pushing for that. So let's just start to understand the publishing landscape around us just a little bit. So first of all, why do journals matter and what do they do for us? And I think this is really something which we keep coming back to. So if you have a journal, the first thing we do is we validate and have a verification process, because you send us an article, we check, yes, this research has been done, this research is properly done, and we validate it, so we record it, yes, it has been done. We then go and filter and select, because the readers, our readers, want to know in their specific field what is really important, what is the most important thing they should be reading on their day to advance their research. And that's what we do through the filter and selection process. The next element of that is distribution and amplification, because people want to find what we do. We want to find what you published, we want to find what research you have done, and they want to use it. And then comes the last one, which is that we want to make sure it's curated and preserved. Because quite often a research paper comes in as an author submit a manuscript. It goes through various different publication stages, and then we publish a version of record. That is not an endpoint. That is the point where the work continues, because any paper can be challenged, there can be amendments to it, there can be annotations to it, there can be a challenge on it, and a paper can be retracted. That unfortunately happens as well, because it's all humans doing that, and it's part of the research cycle. But all of these are processes, so you can trust the research which we publish in the end. So we had a couple of questions here on numbers. Does anybody know how many, and employers from Springer Nature not included, how many submissions we actually get every year at Springer Nature? Anybody has got any idea about that? Any guesses? Who wants to? Maybe we do a show of hand. Who thinks 10,000? Who thinks more? 100,000? Okay. 200,000? I see here. 200,000? 200,000? 500,000? 1.5 million submissions. Okay. This is what we get every year, and this is what we handle every year. And this is what our editors handle every year. And this is what we're also rejecting a lot of every year, so you don't have to read what people, we read the submissions, so you don't have to read stuff which is not important. And that's what we call the filtering element of that. How long does this take? It does take a while. And I wouldn't trust anybody who can tell you, I can redo your experiment in 2 days, because you worked years on it. So you worked years of blood, sweat, and tears trying to get this one experiment done. You don't want to have somebody, oh yeah, I can sort that out very, very quickly. The answer is it takes as long as it does. We try to be as efficient and as fast as we can, and we are trying to manage the peer review process, but even that has got some challenges, because quite often we call up a peer reviewer and we say, can you give us a peer review for this article, please? And then the peer reviewer said, yeah, of course I can, call me back in 3 weeks, I've got it done, right? After 4 weeks, we go back to the peer reviewer and say, sorry guys, we really need your peer review. Have you done it? I said, I'm so sorry, I was so busy. I had this big lecture to do, I just couldn't do it. Can you call me in 2 weeks again? He said, okay, thank you. 3 weeks later, because we always give them a little bit more time, we call them again and say, how's your peer review? My cat got sick. I'm really sorry, I couldn't turn this on. I really couldn't do this. And this continues. And I know from my experience working with editors and with people who manage that process, it can take you up to 50 phone calls to get one peer review in. Now multiply that by 1.5 million submissions, and you can see where the work actually sits, which our editors are doing, and why this takes time. There is one way to make it faster, and that is what I call preprints. Because I also read a Twitter statement the other day saying that somebody said, I got something over the preprint, I got invited to peer review it, I could turn around that peer review in 2 days because I already read the preprint. I just wondered which journal would invite me for that or would invite the review for this to publish it. But be very careful with that, because there is a lot of non-peer reviewed stuff on the server. So I'm linking here to a research which has been done, has been published by PLOS around COVID, where a lot of debunked and wrong science is still working around the ether of the preprint servers. And also be very, very careful during the COVID period. Many people started to press release their preprints. That was not peer reviewed, because in essence, peer review is the essence of science, as Jean-Claude Bergelmann, when he was at the European Union, said. It's really something which we must not and we cannot tamper with, and which we must know and we must be able to keep. But then there's also this strange thing, which I'm sure the librarians here know, which is called the predatory journals. And predatory journals are a quite tricky and difficult thing, because they take the researchers on a ride and want to exploit them to get published. And they live off a lot of numbers and a lot of big numbers. So they only work with quantity, and they only work in the short term, because I think in the long term, researchers will know what is going on and will be very careful to submit to unknown journals where they don't know the editorial board, where they don't know the members of that, with shady processes. So that is something which is happening, which is worrying us in our industry at the moment, which is something which we need to be aware of. But there is help, because we also don't want that your hard work goes to waste. There is a website where a lot of publishers come together. It's called Think, Check and Submit. And I put the QR code on it, and it gives you a checklist of what you should look at in journals before you put your research to it. And really, the information is out there, because if you really want it, you can also have it in Hindi, and you can also have it in Tamil. So really, go to this website, go and have a look at it, and see how that works for you. How do we define impact? We talked about impact the other day. So last year I happened to be at a Coldplay concert for my sins. And that was the day when the James Webb Telescope just published its first images. And as I always have a camera, all the images I'm using here are mine, always have a camera close by, I shot that picture of the James Webb Telescope images on a Coldplay stage. And that is public engagement in science. That is one way, because people ask, where do these images come from? And that's one way why science, how science works, and how public engagement works. And there are other ways, which is media attention, it's clinical translations, it's commercial success, or it is looking at particular moments around your world to make that, and many more. So that is the real impact which we are talking about, and not the impact factor. And measuring that is something very exciting. Now, often we get asked about open access, and you might know all about it, being a librarian especially, but you might also need some arguments around it. So here are my 5 most important misconceptions about open access. The first one is open access is just a publishing trend. Open access is here to stay. It's been around for 20 years. So many publishers, or even longer than 20 years, so many publishers are doing it, and the evidence of it being useful is absolutely overwhelming. So, but we do know that Europe publishes most content in open access, which is 40%. Asia is, for instance, one of the biggest consumers of content, and we know that that in the research communities, awareness is still relatively low. So that's the first one. The second one, we already touched on it, is open access fees is expensive, and the APCs are too high. And I would say, yes, it's a problem. It's a problem. Equitable open access is something which we need to tackle, and which we are working on. But we also can say that we have these processes, and we have got to go to the 1.5 million submissions, and we have to read them, and we publish probably 40% of them, and that the cost of what you see is actually not the cost of publishing, is actually the cost also of what we don't publish in open access. And that's very important to bear in mind. Open access means the author pays. Now, in most of time of the world, we have library funds, we have other funds, we have transformative agreements, of course, which moved open access along in the countries where they have to about 70%, but also we waive a lot of fees. So we waived 18.4 million euros. We waived last, I think that was in 22, and including 6.6 to lower and middle income countries. So we don't want to have that the money stands in the way of research. On the other hand, we have to pay our 300 PhD educated editors a decent salary and look after them and keep them watered so actually they can do the work so you don't have to read the stuff. So really it's a give and take, and it's something important to bear in mind. Misconception 4. Open access means an article is free. Free articles is not open access, because free can be taken away at any time. Like the burst of a bubble. That bubble can burst very quickly and then it's not free anymore. Open access, real open access, comes together with a CC BY license and with a license that you can use and reuse the content and which ensures that it's available in perpetuity, going back to the definition of open access I mentioned at the beginning. That can't be taken away, so that will always be available and always be accessible for you. And the 5th one is probably the most controversial one for many, because there are different colors of open access. One color is green open access, which is actually using a not fully managed article, not the version of record, to make it accessible. And I would argue, and that's usually where a dialogue happens quite quickly, that that is not helping open science, because it's based on the subscription. Nothing in this world is free, unfortunately. We all have to work. We all have to work with it. And I would argue that open access is financed by the subscription, and at some stage the provost from a university says, why do you pay for something which is free, right? If you have a green archive. And then that got lost. And also we've seen in some countries who have started to hog the data and say, I've got a great archive, I have all the data which was published in my country. And do you know what happened? The international impact of that country declined, because people couldn't find the research from the country anymore. And they didn't engage with the people anymore who did the research, and had less collaborations. So that is something which we have seen and which we have observed out there, and that is a problem which we have to tackle. And with that also, things like the rights retention strategy don't really work, because they need the subscription to be continued to be paid. But in a way, the good thing, and with a road trip like this, is that stakeholders are moving together quite quickly. So we've got the governments, we've got institutions, we've got researchers, and we've got publishers who are working together on this. So they all have got different interests, of course. So we've got the governments, they want to have local and global impact. They want to connect more research with the country, with India. We need India to tackle the big problems. The institutions, they want to attract good talent, they want to attract good researchers, and they want to work with researchers. We've got the researchers themselves who want to get better funding, they want to advance their career, they want to do more science. And then we have the publishers who have to follow what the funders or what the governments and the researchers do, and have ways of working with them. But the thing, really, what is important is that we are all in an ecosystem together. And the way this all works, and the way this all works best, is if we somehow manage to all work together and sit together in a, like clownfish in a symbiosis with an anemone, and we have to talk, and we have the dialogue which we have. And this is actually why we are so happy to be here, because we have this national tour. We start to learn from each other a lot. We are trying to bring a lot to you, and it's something which I'm looking forward over the next weeks, and also in this session, to learn more about India's research priorities, and also give you more of a feedback on how we work as a publisher. And with that, thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
Well, my question is about one of the misconceptions which is actually true for India. And that is, it is really expensive. When we talk about any international currency, for example, whether we talk about US dollar or pounds or euro, there is a huge factor. it may be just 2,000 to 5,000 euro for you, but then we'll have to multiply by 100 times here, and that makes it very, very expensive. I can take my example. I come from chemistry. I may also have many choices to go to open access, but I never opt for it because I'll be compromising my own funds for doing research, and I actually prefer using my funds for the research rather than publishing in open access.
No, I mean, it's, again, equitable open access is a problem, but equitable access to research is also a problem. It's actually almost the bigger problem is how do we fund research? How do we get research funding in India off the ground and in the global south off the ground? Because if you are a nanoscientist from an African country, you almost certainly have to leave to do your research, because we only, the West, if you want, only funds agriculture and make sure we don't get Zika, So public health and agriculture is what is most funded in this area, and the people who fund that are WHO, are the European Union, are all Western funders who fund that. So we have to look at that structure as well. How do we fund research and how do we make it participatory? So it's not just about how do we pay for APCs, how do we fund for research? And when you start going into that subject and start moving into this subject, it's like an onion skin. You really start peeling off the layers, and you have to understand the different layers. And it is a big challenge which we face and which we are trying in those dialogues to solve. It'll take a while. It takes our head in, to be honest. But in a way, only challenges which take our head in are interesting enough to take on. So because they become very interesting when you sort them out.
Yeah, I have here more than a question, a suggestion, like for your last slide where you said we all have to work together. And I remembered you telling that you have a lot of challenges with the reviewers of the publication. So I think here is a solution for that, win-win situation for everybody. If you get somebody to review your research article, you offer some kind of a waiver of APC charges. That way the reviewer will be happy to review the article, and they will be getting some concession on the APC charges, because I get so many papers to review, so I actually have to decline because there's not enough time to review everything that you get. Even if they come in my own area where I have published, even then you can't do justice if you accept so many. But yes, if you have this choice of having APC charges waiver in most of the journals where I publish, I would definitely accept them over the others which are not offering.
Yeah, we take that home. That's something which we are discussing as well. It's the credit for the peer review, making sure you get credit for the work you do and get accepted for that. In this discussion, I would be very, very careful. I can point you to some good articles about paid peer review, because that would, in essence, create a peer reviewer market. And then you would have people saying, yes, I can do this peer review in a week if you pay me $3,000. And guess who would pay for it? So really be very careful on what you wish for.
I'm just saying,
but definitely giving you credit
for publication, like
Absolutely.
APC charges waiver.
Absolutely.
So if they end up publishing in that particular defined time, like I will give you an example, iScience does that.
I know.
Yeah, so if you are able to publish something in that particular 1 year of their waiver,
we take that home and we'll make a plea for it. Okay, I promise. Any more questions? No. What's next so thank you very much for standing here, for staying here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I would now like to invite Mr. Aaron and Mr. Ed to felicitate our distinguished panelists, Professor Daman Saluja, Professor Rajiv Gupta, Dr. Rajesh Singh. Could you please all come to the stage? I would also request Venkatesh Sarvasidhi to join Aaron and Ed to felicitate Professor Pami Dua. Can we have a round of applause for everyone here? Thank you, everyone. We now have Venkatesh Sarvasidhi to deliver a vote of thanks as we come to the end of the session. So,
I think we come to the conclusion of a great event, and for us a great kickstart. From here on, we take on to different states and cities across India. I would like to thank various people in making this happen. To start with, Professor Pami Dua ji, the director, Delhi School of Economics, an instrumental person. I still remember when I called her for the first time, along with the Ministry of Education, to host, and we wanted to host it in Delhi School of Economics to kickstart. She was extremely supportive to make things happen, to make it a grand success, and really turn around things, and making sure that the first event happens at the Delhi School of Economics. And we are very, very thankful to you for all your help, support in making this happen. Professor Balram Paniji, the Dean of Colleges, Delhi University, and Professor Daman Saluja, Chairperson, Research Council, University of Delhi. Dr. Rajiv Gupta, CEO, Institute of Eminence, University of Delhi. Professor Anandita Datta, who could not make it here, Head of Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics. Dr. Rajesh Singh, the librarian and the Delhi University, Library Systems, University of Delhi. Plus the ministry officials, Ministry of Education, Shri Sanjay Murthy, the Secretary of Higher Education, Ministry of Education, and Joint Secretary Shri P.K. Banerjee and Shri Govind Jaiswal ji for all their support in flagging off and conceptualizing and helping us drive this event along with them, and especially the G20 who've been actively been there supporting us in this journey of discovery and empowering research communities, and plus the students and faculty members at the Delhi School of Economics and the Delhi University for being here, patient listeners, participating, and also actively asking questions. And we thank everyone for a great support. Last but not the least, I would also like to thank all the support staff here,
without whom we could not have all the stage operations, the photographers, the people who would have arranged all these facilities to make sure every one of us are comfortable and making things happen. We from Springer Nature, we really highly value your support and overall organizing this event. Thank you all for such a nice collaboration and making this a grand success. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to request Professor Balram Pani, Dean of Colleges, Delhi University, and Professor Pammi Dua, Director, DSE, to hand over the baton back to Sri Venkatesh Sarvasiddhi for its further travel to different research summits across India. Scheduled after the event, we will have the flag off ceremony of the National Bus Tour. Students can check out the bus, click photographs, and also meet and interact with the Springer team post the session. This brings us to the end of the session. I hope everyone had a memorable experience throughout. Yes. All the guests and faculty are requested to move to room number 107 for refreshments, and students kindly be seated. Yes, ma'am, I'll announce.
So there's a request from Springer team. As the first half of the session was very interactive, the team is requesting all the students who answered the questions correctly, I believe, Akanksha, is it? The students who answered it correctly, and is it also non-Google versus Google, or are they also allowed to collect it? All of them are requested to please come forward in front of the stage area to collect all the prizes that you have won, all the goodies. And the rest of the students can move to refreshments at DSC lawns.
नमन खुद निखर चुका है